What's up, family? This is
Grace and peace, everybody. Hold on 1 second. Fair use. Somebody give me some fair use. Thank you. Somebody give me some fair use. I wanna try not to spill this cup of coffee right here. And I want to explain some things to y'all. This was sent to me by two people. One brother, or two people. And I've been keeping an eye on the video for a while. Over 1,000 people an hour have been watching this. And this is just further proof, many believe. Oh, no, let me close this thing. Hold on, that little boy up right now. Let me close it so they can set Shorty up with his stuff. Over 1,000 people an hour's been watching this, and this is further proof to many that the true Israel is in Ethiopia. Now, that was mentioned. I remember hearing that back in the days with the Rastafarians. And I thought the way dreading them meant that it was symbolically Babylon, and you know how them dreads be, a lot of stuff is symbolism. And heavy in their lore is the story the Queen of Sheba had a son with Solomon, and the Ark of the Covenant went to Ethiopia, and the glory of the true light was in Ethiopia. Excuse me. I'm trying to eat at the same time. Yes, correct. Tell you and them speak about it. But this gentleman now, and they're saying that this is so important because I want y'all to look from the top first. It's an apology by scholars who admit Moses went to Ethiopia. I want to see what scholars apologized. And they're saying because Europeans, long time ago when they wrote the Bible, the actual Bible is whitewashed. They're going further with this story now. The Bible is an actual lie. They whitewash the Bible to hide the fact that Israel is in the land where it is. So listen to some of this right here. First of all, Muhammad was born 570 AD. In about 610, because he was married to a woman, Khadijah, I believe her name is. It's been so long. This 99% of this channel is from what I remember from 20 years ago. And he married Khadijah, I believe it was. And I think his daughter was named Aisha and all that. One of them, I get the daughters and the wives mixed up in all of this. But in 570, he was born, and in 610, at 4 years old, he had a vision. And he went up in the caves and he was meditating, and a spirit came to him and was trying to grab him and choke him and say, Ikra, Ikra, 3 times. Means recite, I believe. And or right along those lines. And he said he couldn't. And that's when the first surah came down to him. Some accounts said that he was afraid, and he went back and he spoke to another man who was his wife's uncle. And he said, oh, that was the angel Jibril. He come and he bring messages to all the prophets. But Muhammad ain't think it was that situation first. And he explained to him, and that's the birth of Islam and the Quran, being in a cave and receiving a revelation in a cave. And they say the book is magical. It's special because an illiterate prophet wrote it. And that's how the Quran came about. 570 is what we would call the 6th century. The first vision came down at 610. They would call that the 7th century. I believe if this stuff strikes me, I might have to go back to school because these folk out here real smart. They know a lot. So I gotta really go back and try to continue my education. But I'm sharing from what I remember. In Christianity, we never use the Quran because we say the Quran is not a close source or a primary source. If Muhammad was born 500 years after the fact, he said Jesus wasn't really crucified. We received nothing out the Quran. Because it's not a primary source. He wasn't around, but the Spirit told him, so the people, this is important. And because this theology has turned so much into black people, white people stuff, it's in the forefront of our communities. Many people, you cannot crack the Bible open, and the church is wicked because the church never told us that we were the Israelites and that Jesus was black. So everybody's against the church. Many people are against the church because of that. But this scholar is that they're saying that this gentleman that's been in Africa, that's been traveling, that's been interviewing, he said this video is an apology by scholars who admit Moses went to Ethiopia and not to the land of Israel. Let's hear him out. And let's see if this thing makes sense.
This is your man, not your boy. Go black to Africa. That's right. You know, I want to share with you all the Quran, where they are opening it up and realizing that it is mentioning and sharing the stories of the people, places, and the things that are actually substantiating, validating the traces of Moses, the children of Israel, who began in Africa, who settled in Africa, who went south and not north to what they call Israel, showing it as the old Jerusalem. This video, watch and listen how the Quran exposes the Bible because of being whitewashed by the Europeans, changing names, places where the Quran.
Anytime you hear, at least I was always trained. Anytime you hear someone say the Quran is exposing the Bible, those were extreme warning signs. False prophet, nonsense, lies you're about to hear, but it's a new day now. Y'all have a deeper revelation, and I and the church folk have been lied to or have been doing the lying. So let's huge red. Abu, thank you, Abu. Abu said huge red flag. But in the name of this blackness, that means they weren't looking around in Africa and different places and then picked the land of Israel. That means back when the Bible was even being written. We're going to hear stories about the Vatican and the Apostle Paul. This blackness has gone very far. Anybody but a black person. So we have to hear them out because the masters have studied and the masters are telling us so all the rules of the past are broken. Forget the fact we can't trust Muhammad in the life. He wasn't in the region. None of his people, 700 years after the fact. Forget the fact of that. Masters and bosses and mystics are telling us it's all a lie. Let's see if it makes sense.
Actually validates those names that exist today on the old maps in Africa. The Quran has little to no change since its inception in the 5th century, though people may dispute and debate of its authenticity.
Yeah, yep, to make that statement, I hear faithful Muslims make that statement. There's been no change to the Quran. But what's the other guy named David? Let me bring up that Christian apology. Well, we'll just leave that alone. It wasn't the 5th century. It came down later on. It wasn't that, but he's not into this really. He's just presenting y'all with what he believes to be proof. Let's hear it out. Now he's saying scholar. Now we're looking for what's being said here. He said scholars apologize and admit that Moses went to Ethiopia. What's that book they call Little Genesis? What's the name of that book, y'all?
We can agree.
And when was that book written? Now, these Israelites want to go grabbing other books. That's one thing. But now y'all running to grab even the very Quran that denies the resurrection of your Lord and anything to fight against these wicked white folk.
Agree that it will still show places and people at that time that the Europeans could never get its hands on to change. Enjoy this video and see, can you add the piece to your puzzle?
Jubilees. Thank you, Nameless.
And the truth be revealed.
Charles Darwin believed that humans evolved in Africa and that the root of the human tree was very deeply ingrained there. And in 1962, our roots were shown to be definitively in Africa. Geneticists are able to identify certain genetic sequences or markers in each of us and cross-reference it with a number of ever-growing international databases. Where there's a match, there's likely a common ancestor, and genetically speaking, all markers point to Africa. With the mapping of the human genome in 2003, combined with thousands of people around the world submitting their DNA for testing, there's now mounting physical proof that we all started in Africa before migrating around the world. Furthermore, advanced DNA testing combined with recently unearthed discoveries are bolstering the belief that if you look back far enough, all living human beings are the descendants of a small, innovative and ambitious set of people on the African continent. And now scientists are searching for our ancestors in the Afar Desert of Ethiopia, which coincidentally happens to be the lowest point in Ethiopia, the lowest in Africa, and the lowest point on the planet.
Let me just say this. When we start talking about civilization, where civilization began, there's a little confusion when you talk about Adam and Eve and the first human beings. If you believe that story and you look at those two things and you merge those two things together. A lot of people don't, because there are some that even consider themselves Bible believers that believe Adam and Eve just represent like the federal head of the human race. Some people think it's law, it's just a story of two people and how humanity fell, but it wasn't really two people. That's one thing I don't heard at all. So when these folk becoming like they got new revelation now, no. I don't think there's too much new under the sun. But when you look at the rivers, it looked like it's Africa. Some people believe that's the Blue Nile and the White Nile. It looked like it's East Africa. But then after the flood, the world was repopulated, and wherever you people believe Ararat is where the ark rested from Noah. Remember, we have Bible, we have what anthropologists say. A lot of these scientists, they believe in evolution and the monkey business. But you people that are trying to go with some anthropology and mainly Bible, you have to admit that it was around the repopulation took place around what they would call Ararat. Some people say Turkey. And mankind spread out from there. Babylon. You know, Van Sertim and so many other people argued even the people in early Babylon were a darker hue of people. We're going to continue from there.
An Amharic mountain in Ethiopia, or even about the location of the mountain of Senyin that has for years been wrongly translated as the mountain of Sinai in Egypt, and that we just recently discovered thanks to satellite mapping. In short, he could not have known. So where is this mysterious mountain that turns out to be of great significance? The mountain of Senyin is in an Amharic town which is not even known by most Ethiopians. It's now called Choke Mountain and can be found in the Ethiopian highlands, located in the Amhara National Regional State, East Gojam Zone, northwest of the town of Debre Marcos. Line of inquiry in this program starts with Mizr, the cradle of civilization and the land of mysteries, the land where the story of Moses and Pharaoh took place. In fact, the story of Moses and Pharaoh is one of the most repeated stories in the Quran, if not the most. According to the Quran, this story takes place in Misr. The Quran narrates what Pharaoh said, "Don't I own Misr and these rivers that are running from beneath?" Moses also addresses the Israelites and says, "Descend to Misr." Where exactly is Misr that is being referred to in the Quran, and what are its borders? Is it the current Egypt that we know now, with borders from Alexandria in the north to Aswan in the south? Well, the short answer to this question is no. This is actually not what the Quran refers to as the land of Misr, and this is certainly not its borders. Misr means the Nile Valley. Its borders are not just from Alexandria to Aswan. Misr extends from the Mediterranean Sea all the way down to Ethiopia, or the Abyssinian highlands from where the River Nile originates. These countries along this line have always been, across history, one country ruled by one king. Ancient Egyptians, Persians, Ptolemies, Romans, also the Muslim conquests, Rashidi, Umayyads, Abbasi, Fatimiyyan and Ottoman kingdoms ruled Misr as one country. These recently imposed borderlines that divided Misr to Egypt and Sudan were in place only in 1899, upon instructions from the British colony who were there at the time. This was the first and most dangerous formal division for Misr into a northern country named Egypt and a southern country named Sudan. The word Misr was mentioned 5 times in the Quran, where it came in 2 different forms. The first without nonation, meaning the homeland where Egyptians used to live. and said this who had brought him from Mizra, don't I have the reign of Mizra? You shall enter Mizra. Also, in another form with no nation, you shall descend to Misran, meaning the civilized city. The reference to this civilized land, or the civilization of the Nile Valley, as mentioned in the Quran, refers to the land of Egypt, Sudan, up until the Abyssinian highlands, not just Egypt. So let's try to connect the dots here. If the Valley of the Nile, or Misr, that is mentioned in the Quran, covers all this land long before the British conquest and its border definition in 1899, then where exactly in Misr has been the location of Moses and the Pharaoh's story? Has it been in the north of Misr towards today's Egypt, as was taught to us in the history books, or towards the south, currently known as Sudan? The Quran identifies the geographic location of the interactions between Moses and Pharaoh with extreme specificity, leaving no room for doubt. In fact, the Quran mentions 5 descriptions in its narration of Moses and Pharaoh's story: the western side, Yam, Madyun, Turwa, and the Tor. The western side, the first location identified by the Quran, is where Moses learned from God that the confrontation with Pharaoh and his army is over. He also learned the timing of his escape with the Israelites from the tyranny of the Pharaoh. This specific location is identified as the western side of Mecca because God said to Prophet Muhammad, "And you weren't, O Muhammad, by the western side as we handled the situation with Moses, and you weren't one of the witnesses." Prophet Muhammad lived in Mecca at the time, and the western side of Mecca is northern Sudan. If anything, this tells us that the story of Moses and Pharaoh took place in what we now know as northern Sudan, or to be precise, in the southern part of Misra before the 1899 borders. By the way, it's worth noting here that back then there was not the land that is now called North Sudan. It was known as the Nubian Kingdom of Kush. Hence, you can confidently say that Misra was in Egypt, Lower Misra, in addition to Kush, Upper Misra, until now the Abyssinian highlands. Kush was the home of people of dark skin called the Kushites, who built a strong civilization economically, politically, and spiritually. In fact, the people of Kush built around 300 pyramids compared to the 60 pyramids built in Lower Misr, Egypt. There were always disputes between Upper and Lower Misr about who would rule Misr as a whole, and indeed the Nubian Kush, or Upper Misr, succeeded sometimes in ruling Misr as a whole. Eventually, the Lower Misr, Egypt, succeeded afterwards to control the reign of Misr as a whole. And since the story of Moses and the Pharaoh took place in the current north of Sudan, or in a more accurate description, at the southern part of Misr before the border division took place in 1899. This then means that the story of Moses and the Pharaoh took place in the land of Kush, or in the Upper Misr region, and that the Pharaoh that was referred to in the Quran is a proper noun for one of the kings of Kush, or Upper Misr, that is currently north of Sudan, and not Ramses II, the king of Lower Misr, Egypt, as narrated in some history books. In the Quran, Pharaoh says, "Aren't I the ruler of Misr, and these rivers are running beneath me, can't you see?" If we refer here to Egypt, Lower Misr, as we know it today, it is only one river, the Nile. Nevertheless, the Quran is referring to Upper Misr, which has many rivers. This again implies that the story of Moses and Pharaoh took place in Upper Misr or northern Sudan. The river Al-Yam, the second location mentioned in Moses and Pharaoh's story, refers to where Pharaoh sunk with his army. Another reference to Al-Yam is where Moses' mother sent him afloat in a basket when God ordered her to do so to save him from the soldiers of the Pharaoh. At the beginning of Surat Taha, God says to Moses' mother, "And put him in the coffin and throw him in Al-Yam," referring her to the river. In the same chapter, towards the end of the story of Moses and Pharaoh, God says, "And the Pharaoh and his soldiers followed them, and they've seen from Al-Yam what they've seen." So while we agree that Moses at the beginning of the story was thrown in Al-Yam, and the Pharaoh at the end of the story sunk in Al-Yam, we associate 2 meanings to Al-Yam. We claim that the first Al-Yam is the River Nile, and contradict ourselves by saying that the second Al-Yam refers to the Red Sea, where the Pharaoh and his army supposedly met their fate.
You said the video, this Back to Africa guys playing, this is part of a documentary, a BBC documentary?
Wrong. Both instances refer to the river where Moses was left as a child, and the place where the Pharaoh and his army sunk beneath the waters. It's clear that Al-Yam in the Quran refers to the same location, which is the River Nile, specifically the part of the Nile in northern Sudan. In fact, the word yam linguistically means water as a source of life and food, and it was used to refer to the Nile Valley in this region, starting from the 4th cataract to the 6th cataract. This area, Yam, is one of the most fertile areas in the Nile Valley and is now called Shendi Branch, where the Nile starts to become wider and with lower fertile banks. Obviously, you're beginning to question here, what about the verses in Quran that explain Moses crossing the sea and the fatal ending of Pharaoh and his army beneath the waters? The Quran says, "And as we parted the sea and we rescued you and sunk Pharaoh and his followers while you were wandering." Let's address this. The Quran was revealed in Lesson Arabic, so they understand. Arabs use the word bahra for sea or for any large body of water like oceans, seas, rivers, lakes, etc. For example, in Surat Al-Furqan, "And he who combined water from both seas, one is fresh and drinkable, and the other is salty and not drinkable, and made between them isthmus and carved rocks." Similarly, "And the two seas are not equal. This is fresh and drinkable, and this is salty and not drinkable." The Quran here is clearly referring to the sea as a big body of fresh or salty water, whether it's actually a river or a sea. The third location in the Quran is Madian. God explains that Moses escaped from the Pharaoh and fled to Madian before he was chosen as a messenger. Moses lived in, worked at, and got married in Madian. God says in the Quran, "And to Madian their brother Shoaib." And it is known that the grave and the mountain of Prophet Shoaib is in Yemen. This establishes that Madian is located in Yemen, not in Saudi or northern Hijaz, as it is thought to be in some history books. Madian also has the Mosque of Prophet Shoaib, which is located in the middle of Oslat al-Manar, on the line connecting Sa'na in the provinces of Ab and Taz in Yemen. We can now understand that the immigration of Bedouins from the southern Arabian Peninsula to southern Misr was a common practice at that time and not limited to the Israelites when Joseph welcomed his brothers and parents into Misr. All this proves that Moses spoke the same language of the Pharaoh and that the escape of Moses from the Pharaoh in northern Sudan to the south in Madian, Yemen, makes perfect sense. Let's continue with the story of Moses and the fourth location mentioned in the Quran in relation to his journey. After Moses settled and had a job and wife in Madian, he stayed there for a long time, but he was determined to go back to Miz. As he was on his way to Miz with his family, he reached the valley of Torah, where God called him, "Verily I am thy Lord, therefore in my presence put off thy shoes, thou art in the sacred valley Torah." The sacred valley Torah is the location where Moses spoke to God. This valley is next to a very high and huge mountainous structure called the Tor. The Quran says, "And we called him from the right side of the Tor and made him draw near to us." This implies that the very high and huge mountainous structure called the Tor is in the same location of the sacred valley of Torah. The question that comes to mind here is, where is this location? Where is the sacred valley of Torah, and in which country? Let's check the map. If Moses is returning from his family from Madian, then clearly he would enter Miz from the south, which implies he would pass through Abyssinia and the eastern north of Sudan. Indeed, on the current borders of Sudan and Abyssinia, and specifically on the Abyssinian highlands, is a valley named Tor. You can find this information in the book of James Bruce, a Scottish explorer who was the first to follow the Blue Nile from its source until it meets the White Nile. On the 29th of November 1772, Bruce arrived in Aswan and published his book, Expeditions to Discover the Sources of the Nile, between 1769 and 1773. It's considered one of the most authentic books that examine the River Nile Valley. About his trip from Ethiopia to Egypt, he mentioned a significant piece of information. He referred to a town
James
called
Bruce, remember that
a
name?
town at the border between northern Sudan and the Abyssinian highlands. Its true name was Tor. Bruce illustrates the map of Miz before the recent borders between the north and the south. On the map, you can easily locate Tor next to Abyssinian Heights. From a geographical perspective, Tor, or the city of Al-Gadarif, is located in the Ethiopian hills at the border with Sudan. Rivers flow into this place and create fertile, rich soils that retain water and provide essential nutrients to plants. In fact, it's considered to be one of the top agricultural areas in Sudan, with high fertile valleys around the rivers of Atbar, State, Al-Harad and Bislam, highly known for corn and sesame all around the world. As for the animal population in Al-Gadarif, around 7 million different types of cattle come from nearby neighborhoods seeking water and food. God describes this area in the Quran as the blessed spot. The blessing refers to the diversity of the rivers, agricultural crops, trees and food, which applies to the city of Al-Gadarif. This area and Sudan in general is considered to be the food basket of the world. There is no other area as blessed agriculturally as this area in the entire Arabian and African region, just in terms of the number of rivers, the variety of agricultural harvests, and the greenery. So what is the story of the very high and huge mountainous structure called the Tur, or the Tower, the fifth location identified in the Quran? And we called him from the right side of the Tur and made him draw near to us. The Tur is a very high and huge mountainous structure and was mentioned in the Quran as the Tur Sina or Sinai, the Tur Sanin, and just as the Tur. It's recorded in Arabic dictionaries and scholars of the science of tafsir that Sinai and Sanin are known Abyssinian nouns. Indeed, if you check the map of the Abyssinian highlands, you will find names like Sanin, Semien, Sina, Senan. In fact, in the Abyssinian highlands, you will find a mountain called Debra Sina, or Mount Sinai in English. The exact name of the mountain is also found in modern Egypt and is called Mount Sinai. You will also find in Abyssinian highlands Mount Sanin. And what's interesting is that in the Abyssinian highlands, despite the difference in the names, Sanin, Semien, Senan, Sina, etc., they all represent one mountainous structure, one range, one plateau, called the Tower Plateau. From a geological perspective, the Abyssinian highlands is considered to be one block, moulded since creation from one origin. This range is called the Abyssinian Tower, also referred to as the African Tower, because it is the biggest group of mountains with a height that extends in one chain in Africa for a very long distance, 519,278 kilometers squared. That's why Ethiopia is sometimes referred to as a tower. Even the highest peak in Africa, Mount Kilimanjaro, extends only to 4,000 kilometers squared. The Abyssinian Heights has been referred to as the African Plateau or the African Roof, with different heights exceeding 4,000 meters to a maximum of 4,500 meters. As for the Sinai or Sina mountain in modern Egypt, its average height is only 2,300 meters, and the area of Sinai altogether is 61,000 kilometers squared. Most importantly, the Sinai that you know today in modern Egypt was not called Sinai in the time of Moses and the Pharaoh. It was called Mafkat, which means the land of turquoise. Also, the so-called Mount of Tur in Sinai in modern Egypt was then called Retho. There is no single evidence of the usage of the name Sanin or Sina for any of the mountains in the turquoise land that was later named Sinai or Sina. The Quran has to refer to known nouns with the real names as they were used at the time, and there is no mention of Mafkat or Retho in Moses' story. What was referred to in the story was the Tur Sanin and the Tur Sina, which are known nouns from an Abyssinian origin, as documented in the authentic Arabic dictionaries and as illustrated by scholars of tafsir. Let's get back to the terminology that describes the Abyssinian highlands as the Tower Heights. The word tower simply means the highest location from which you can see across the largest possible landscape around you. There's nothing as high and nothing as big as this spot in all of the Arabian and African region. To further simplify this, the word tower originally comes from tour in Arabic. The word tower in French is tour, in Spanish it's torre, in Italian also torre, and in German it's turm. It's clear they all come from the same word, the Arabic word tour. Of course, this is no coincidence, because if you look in the Oxford English Dictionary, you'll find that the origin of tower is Tur. It's also worth noting that there's another name for the Abyssinian highlands, that is, the water tower. This is because it is the water source of the River Nile Valley for all this region, south from Abyssinia, north and east from Sudan, and all the way to the Mediterranean. When God swears by the Tur, then he swears by the Abyssinian highlands, or the so-called water tower, the source of the water of the River Nile, referred to as al-Bahr al-Majur, or the large body of water kept filled in the Quran. Yes, the River Nile is al-Bahr al-Majur, or the large body of water kept filled. Let me clarify this one too. What is the meaning of al-Bahr al-Majur? It means the sea that gets full until it floods, and as we know, the flood is a main characteristic of the River Nile. To summarize these meanings and connections, the River Nile originates from the Abyssinian highlands, the water tower, the Tur. Each year there is a flood season, so the soil gets fed with silt. This natural flooding phenomena is what created the first civilization in history, the Nile Valley civilization.
Okay, the first civilization in history, some people say the Nile Valley, some say civilization began around the Euphrates River. Depends how you look at the Genesis story and how you understand the flood story. If you're taking those first 11 chapters, that's very, very important. on your position and how you take those first 11 chapters of Genesis. Now somebody might wake Garfield up to harass some of you folk. So far, have the scholars apologized? Have the Quran and what this lady is reporting, has it swayed you in any way that Europeans that wrote the Bible now, because they're leaning towards the Europeans wrote the Bible, not manuscript from original Israelites, none of that nonsense. Qumran, the people in the Dead Sea, all them folk were Europeans, and they attempted to hide where the real Israel is, that we're going off of that. That's what we're springboarding off of. And the real Israel is in Ethiopia. Remember, the only people I remember saying that back in the days was in the early 90s, late 80s were the Dreads, Rastafarians. We'll look a little more into their religion and the connection with Israel or Ethiopia and being the Holy Land and the Ark of the Covenant. Then I'm going to drag y'all to Bruce, a Freemason that gave y'all Enoch. Y'all talking the white folk done hit it, the Vatican and all of this stuff. We'll see if the lore and the nonsense that some of these folk talking about, we'll see if it matched up. What scholar says she mentioned? He's looking for the stupid stuff. You just caught up in that Christianity. I know what your problem is.
Without the flood, there is no agriculture and no...
You just don't want to believe the black men, anybody but the black men. Now you're asking, now the crazy questions coming. What scholar did she mention?
Civilization. Al-Bahr al-Major, as mentioned, refers to the sea that gets full and floods, thus referring to the River Nile. As we answered before, the word al-Bahr in Arabic and in the Quran is used to refer to both river and sea. In a nutshell, the Torah is the source of al-Bahr al-Major, or the River Nile.
Egyptian terms.
At this point, you might also wonder, can there be a water stream that fit the definition of al-Bahr al-Major other than the River Nile? Well, what are the odds for a location that connects all the aforementioned dots?
But scholars, he said that's an apology by scholars who admit Moses went to Ethiopia. You see the type of, because verbal apologists made headlines like this or made video titles like this. Never mind. Let the pure speak. To the simple, all things are.
A location that meets the specific character.
I tell y'all what, them moderates, them what they would call moderates, them campers, they all the same when it comes down to certain things. They gonna broad brush, they gonna wild out with titles, and they gonna do what they want to do in the name of this nation built.
Characteristics of the Tur Sinin, the Tur, the Valley of Tur, and Al-Bahr al-Major, as referred to in the Quran, other than the Abyssinian highlands. In the Quran, also a tree springing out of Mount Sinai which produces fat and relish for those who use it for food. On the top of the Abyssinian highlands there is a belt of trees that extends to Senegal in West Africa. It's called the trees of sheer butter that grows only on the equator, and their fruits contain butter that has an ivory colour. The sheer butter trees only grow in Africa on their own accord without interference by humans. They're a blessing from God to the Africans. They support the people in their lives so they can use them in their nutrition, as a medicine, and to protect their bodies from the heat of the sun. The sheer butter tree is also called the tree of life. It's a source of income for Abyssinian and African women because women in Africa are the ones who gather the sheer fruit, wash and dry it, and grind the seeds to extract the butter. This tree has an extended lifespan, producing fruits for more than 400 years. Compared to other trees, this is a very long time. For example, an apple tree lives for 45 years at most. The belt of sheer butter trees covers an area of more than 3.7 million square kilometers. It's the longest belt of trees on Earth. Some Tafsir scholars explain the verse, also a tree springing out of Mount Sinai which produces fat and relish for those who use it for food, as referring to the olive tree and the olive oil that comes from that. However, there's a big difference linguistically and otherwise between oil, zayit, and butter, dem. Scientifically, oil is liquid at room temperature, but butter is solid at room temperature. And if what is referred to is an olive tree, the Quran would have said which produces oil, same as God said before about the oil tree, whose oil would almost glow. To summarize, as Moses was returning to Mizra from Midian, Yemen, God talked to him at Tur Valley, that is next to the Abyssinian highlands, the Tur, at the Sudanese-Abyssinian border, which is currently called Al-Gadarif, which was the southern part of Misr before the British colonization. Senin and Sina, according to tafsir books and authentic Arabic dictionaries, are popular nouns with Abyssinian origin. So the Tor, Senin, and the Tor, Sina, are the Abyssinian highlands, the Tor that is known to be the Abyssinian tower, the source of the full flooding river, which is Al-Bahr al-Major, or the River Nile, the origin of the first civilization on earth. God ordered Moses to escape with the Israelites from the western side of Mecca, which is southern Misr, now northern Sudan, to the south, where the Abyssinian highlands, the Tor, is located. Moses settled with the Israelites on the Abyssinian tower, or the Tor. When Moses told the Israelites afterwards, go down to Misr, it really meant linguistically to go down from the top of the heights to the valley. So moving forward, do Jews still live in the Abyssinian highlands? Absolutely. The Ethiopian Jews, Falasha Jews, or as they're also called, Beta.
Jay, I think Jay is one of the two people I was talking about that sent this video, right? Jay, you sent me this here? He said the Limba said that they came from Senna. Okay, if that's part of their oral tradition, that's not bad. That could be a connection right there. You heard that, y'all? Somebody get Garfield on it. You heard that at least. All right, that could be a connection right there. If that's where they say they come from. Yes, he is one. It's two. I told him this morning when I started the video that two people sent it. Now, Limba, does that mean, because they say that's where they come from, you think that means that because they do have some connection, or some of the Limba do have some connection with Mosaic practices? He's saying, okay, in the same video, I have a video of black Jews that never saw white Jews. Yes, I think we did play that. You could send it, but I think we did play that they were shocked that there were light ones. Well, Dr. Brown said in the days of Moses, I played that. I just recently loaded that back up on my TikTok. But we played that video. Him and Professor Henry Abramson, they do bear witness that back in Moses' day, there were no European Jews. I guess the camps fought or made them say that. I wonder if the camps made back in 1980, was it, that they made Operation Moses, Operation Sun, that they made the light-skinned Jews airlift the Ethiopian Jews back with that whole welcome home stuff, spent that money and airlift the Ethiopian Jews. Never mind. He said, but the camps are crazy. All right, let's let it play.
To Israel live in the Abyssinian highlands, or the Tor, in total isolation from Ethiopian society. Even their looks are different from the rest of the Ethiopians, as they have to some extent lighter skin because of their origins as the descendants of the Nubian Kush, who settled in Abyssinia after Moses escaped from Pharaoh in North Sudan, or more precisely in the southern part of Misr before the 1899 border division that separated Sudan from Misr. In the mid-1980s, large numbers of the Falasha Jews emigrated to Israel.
This is it right here.
They have their own synagogues and they live on the borders of the Arab and Muslim neighborhoods, separating them from the rest of the Jews.
Now, where's Muck Runner? Because Martin Luther, didn't he want to connect with them Ethiopian Jews having an ancient practice just to study them a little bit? I'll talk about reforming the Catholic Church, and did folk want to start a Protestant movement? We may have to get into some of that, right? Because all of this stuff is connected, believe it or not.
Falasha in the Ethiopian language means to emigrate, and it's clear from this name that these Jews are the ones who arrived to Abyssinian highlands, the Tor, as a result of their immigration with Moses, escaping from the Pharaoh. One of the main things that differentiate Falasha Jews from other Jews is that they don't believe
in the realness,
and they only believe in the first 5 books from the Old Testament, which are preserved in their Ge'ez language, which is a South Arabian language.
And what Limba said about them, what they said about that white bottle, though? Hold on, let me pull this hood off. What they said about that white bottle, though?
The Falasha Jews do not believe in Talmud, as they believe it's fabricated, thus protecting the origins of Judaism from deviation. The Falasha believe in the God of the Israelites, who has chosen them over the rest of humanity. They believe in the 10 Commandments and pay significant attention to the rules of purity, which are pretty strict. For example, the purification of women after menstruation, which follows quite a complicated process. One of the most important means of worship for Jewish Falasha are prayers, and they perform these prayers in a synagogue called Masjid. The Falasha do not enter the Masjid with their shoes, similar to Muslims, a practice that is not followed by other sects of Jews or Christians. Their hymns are in the Ge'ez language, not in Hebrew, and they pray 3 times a day, after sunrise, midday, and after sunset.
Think about it, 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 think about it.
All right, he said,
Think about it.
He said, think about it. What are your thoughts? Let me stop that right there. Let me stop that right there. Tell me you're up. I'm live right now. If you up. I know I'm not the only one with Garfield and Elder Green number. I asked y'all if these folk in the back chat. Look at jump off a minute if you up. If you in the house, you're not in the car. That's Garfield right there. Let me just. He said, "Nameless Soul said pure fiction." He said pure fiction. He said this is nothing but nonsense. Somebody else said the camp's not helping one bit. I'm gonna go to Bruce. Man, let me see. This is Bruce and the book of Enoch. Let's just go down. Let's just go down. Let me show y'all. I want to show y'all something. I want to show y'all something. The people that's been hiding stuff and where this stuff come from and how y'all got the truth and how y'all piece stuff together. I want to. Matter of fact, let me stop with Bruce for a second. Somebody said the camp's not helping. Let me do this first. Being that Abu is in here, so he can take some of this stuff right here back to his cabin with him. Where's here you go. Nope, that's not it. That's not. I'll go with. Man, this is a rough one here. All right. Here we go. Listen to this, y'all. Listen to this right here. Listen to this very carefully in light of everything we've been talking about. Yeah, just make it make sense. Just help me. Put a link out there. Goddamn coffee.
I researched my background, my history. Okay, I am a product of rape.
All right,
the
wait,
white
right
man
there.
Raped my grandmother. So where does that leave me? I'm not white. You look at me, I'm black. Am I a true Israelite? Or am I, Esau?
The seed of his. Listen, now you heard that, right? Y'all heard. Let me hit copy. Let me do this real fast. Fervent Charity, don't start laughing. This is serious business right here. Now, they done ran up in his mom, and he's the product. Because y'all told me. This is what your masters told me. It's the seed of the Father. That what y'all told me? I don't want to make it up. Have y'all heard that before? It's the seed of the Father. You heard him. You all right. You heard him. Let's keep going. I want to play a little more. But I want to go back and I want y'all to hit home.
I researched my background, my history.
All right.
Okay, I am a product of rape. The white man raped my grandmother. So where does that leave me? I'm not white. You look at me, I'm black. Am I a true Israelite? Or am I, Esau?
There's a lot of people that don't know who their father is.
Okay, he says, grandfather, this guy said there's a lot of people that don't know who their father is. Good to see you, Elder Harris. There's a lot of people that don't know who their father is. You could stay or you could go. I know you a camper. You could stay or you could go. Boy, we ruling it over here. Like y'all got that microphone and talk over folk and do what y'all want. I learned that from y'all back in the days. And we're going to do our thing over here. Listen to this nonsense.
Or can't trace their lineage. This is not a physical calling. This is a spiritual calling.
Now,
you believe?
Ooh, wait a minute. I'm going to get this thing over to Garfield.
What is
physical calling. You bloodline people.
What is he talking about? What did he say? Play the whole thing over.
No. Don't even get on him. I want you to get on that Ethiopia. As a matter of fact, I should have sent him the link. Back to Africa. Look at him. He dropped a video that Ethiopia is the real Israel and that the Quran bears witness with it. I just finished playing that video. I should have called you in the beginning. But hold on, listen to this. I want Abu to hear this thing out.
What the scriptures say concerning the Israelites?
Yes, I do believe.
Okay, Christ said, my sheep hear my voice. I get a lot of people that tell me I'm mixed. I don't know about my dad, or I was raped or whatever.
Oh yeah,
I don't go by that. The scriptures say, if you're not an Israelite, you are not going to be receptive to this word.
So I'm not Israel. This stuff that they preaching, I don't receive none of this. So now if you're receptive to it, it don't make a difference if you don't know what your father, they just looking to get folk in the numbers. Let me play that one
I
more.
researched my background, my history. Okay. I'm a product of rape. The white man raped my grandmother. So where does that leave me? I'm not white. You look at me, I'm black. Am I a true Israelite or am I, Esau?
There's a lot of people that don't know who their father is or can't trace their lineage. This is not a physical calling. This is a spiritual calling. Do you believe what the scriptures say concerning the Israelites?
Yes, I do believe.
Okay, Christ said, my sheep hear my voice.
Wow, you see it.
I get a lot of people that tell me I'm mixed. I don't know about my dad, or I was raped or whatever. I don't go by that. The scriptures say, if you're not an Israelite, you are not going to be receptive to this word.
I'm a dirty, filthy African. I'm not receptive to it. I don't receive none of that nonsense they preaching. Now all of a sudden, bloodline don't make no difference. I would like to hear what fervent charity. I'd like to hear what no, we already got an idea what Mick gonna say. He's different. I'd like to hear what Abu have to say. Go ahead, Garfield. Let me pull up this other thing and show you.
Yeah, I was skimming through the video a while ago.
Oh, you look okay. The other one, right?
Just looking at it, but if you want, you could play it over. And so
he said, "Apology by scholars." You see this right here? He said, "Apology by scholars who admit Moses went to Ethiopia." Because everybody now waking up to the fact that these people lied. Israel ain't the real Israel. Ethiopia is the real Israel.
Think about it. Think about it. Think about it. Think about it. Think about it.
What's up, family? This is your man, not your boy. Go Black to Africa. That's right. I want to share with you all the Quran, where they are opening it up and realizing that it is mentioning and sharing the stories of the people, places, and the things that are actually substantiating, validating the traces of Moses, the children of Israel, who began in Africa, who settled in Africa, who went south and not north to what they call Israel, showing it is the old Jerusalem. This video, watch and listen how the Quran exposes the Bible because of being whitewashed by the Europeans, changing names, places where the Quran actually validates those names that exist today.
So the King James translators, the white folk corrupted the Bible, Alton. They corrupted the Bible, and the Quran is exposing it. They said, wait, when I said this was spiritual a few years ago, folk got highly upset. Now they're admitting it. Not everybody is claiming Israel is Israel. Paul, original Israelite, said it. Paul is undisputed as being an Israelite. Paul is undisputed. He is an Israelite. And he said this 2,000 years ago, these folk trying to take us somewhere, the original Israelites like Paul and Peter and them. Why put a burden on them? Stuff original Israelites said. Now DNA and stuff is out, and there's a reason them folk don't want DNA. Now DNA and stuff is out, exposing, revealing a lot of things. People coming out of jail off of it, doing 25 years, 40 years, people giving them devils back that time, coming back down based off of DNA. Now all of a sudden the spiritual people don't want the DNA. Even though those that are in law enforcement, they don't want the DNA. Now after all this, Alton, what would you have to say? Come on, your chip is gone. What say ye on this? Now the masters, because that guy that was talking, he was a bishop or something. Now the masters in their craft is switching the game back up. But you can't question the masters. Whatever Massa say, y'all just switch the light Massa up for the dark one, because y'all not thinking, y'all just accepting anything. I seen that meme from the Rumble Room with the bacon and the white Jesus on the cross talking about, I listen to vocab and I watch Marian TV. Y'all funny dudes, come get up on here right now. Funny people. Y'all just want y'all the new gatekeepers. I've been trying to argue we don't got gatekeepers in our community, but we got gatekeepers. Y'all push, I'm black, y'all. I'm black, y'all. Let me get some. Go ahead. Come on, Garfield. You wanna let me see what.
Yeah, play some more of it. Let me get a gist of it.
Okay. All right. Alton, I need Alton. I need the boo. I need fervent charity. Somebody got to touch this right now. It's spiritual. Let me wake Matt up.
Or on the old maps in Africa. The Quran has little to no change since its inception in the 5th century. Though people may dispute and debate of its authenticity,
of the Bible, Lord,
we can agree that it will still show places and people at that time that the Europeans could never get its hands on to change. Enjoy this video and see, can you add the piece to your puzzle and the truth be revealed?
Charles Darwin believed.
And he's just saying adding piece to the puzzle. Now remember how we titled this, Apology by Scholars Who Admit Moses. And then when we start dealing with scholars and scholars believing in Moses, matter of fact, I ain't gonna touch that, and Garfield ain't gonna touch it either. I'm gonna just leave that alone for you folks. Believe what you want to believe. Fair use.
Humans evolved in Africa and that the root of the human tree was very deeply ingrained there. And in 1962, our roots were shown to be definitively in Africa. Geneticists are able to identify certain genetic sequences or markers in each of us and cross-reference it with a number of ever-growing international databases. Where there's a match, there's likely a common ancestor, and genetically speaking, all markers point to Africa. With the mapping of the human genome in 2003, combined with thousands of people around the world submitting their DNA for testing, there's now mounting physical proof that we all started in Africa before migrating around the world. Furthermore, advanced DNA testing combined with recently unearthed discoveries are bolstering the belief that if you look back far enough, all living human beings are the descendants of a small, innovative and ambitious set of people on the African continent. And now scientists are searching for our ancestors in the Afar Desert of Ethiopia, which coincidentally happens to be the lowest point in Ethiopia, the lowest in Africa, and the lowest point on the planet. An Amharic mountain in Ethiopia, or even about the location of the mountain of Senyin that has for years been wrongly translated as the mountain of Sinai in Egypt, and that we just recently discovered thanks to satellite mapping. In short, he could not have known. So where is this mysterious mountain that turns out to be of great significance? The mountain of Senyin is in an Amharic town which is not even known by most Ethiopians. It's now called Choke Mountain and can be found in the Ethiopian highlands, located in the Amhara National Regional State, East Gojam Zone, northwest of the town of Debre Marcos. Line of inquiry in this program starts with Misr, the cradle of civilization and the land of mysteries, the land where the story of Moses and Pharaoh took place. In fact, the story of Moses and Pharaoh is one of the most repeated stories in the Quran, if not the most. According to the Quran, this story takes place in Misr. The Quran narrates what Pharaoh said, "Don't I own Misr and these rivers that are running from beneath?" Moses also addresses the Israelites and says, "Descend to Misr." Where exactly is Misr that is being referred to in the Quran, and what are its borders? Is it the current Egypt that we know now, with borders from Alexandria in the north to Aswan in the south? Well, the short answer to this question is no. This is actually not what the Quran refers to as the land of Misr, and this is certainly not its borders. Misr means the Nile Valley. Its borders are not just from Alexandria to Aswan. Misr extends from the Mediterranean Sea all the way down to Ethiopia, or the Abyssinian highlands from where the River Nile originates. These countries along this line have always been, across history, one country ruled by one king. Ancient Egyptians, Persians, Ptolemies, Romans, also the Muslim conquests, Rashidi, Umayyads, Abbasi, Fatimiyyan and Ottoman kingdoms ruled Misr as one country. These recently imposed borderlines that divided Misra to Egypt and Sudan were in place only in 1899 upon instructions from the British
Hold
colony
on.
of
I
Madeira at
gotta
the
stop
time.
this. Let me
This was the first and
jump
most
to some of
dangerous
this
form of
right here.
division for Misra.
Garfield, whilst Garfield watching in the back on his phone, I'm gonna step out for 1 second. Let me because I gotta play some of this because I gotta walk out that. I don't know. I got a whole hour, I think. But let me just call to see where she's. Let me call to see where she's at. All right, but most people seen that. Garfield, let me know when you want to what points you want to bring out in the video. I got it queued up at that same place. Let me play some of this. I'm gonna knock out 2 things.
This mystery has been a source of much controversy. Because of a discovery that was uncovered just a few years ago,
Look at this.
our picture of early Christianity
Of
has been
Black
completely
Jesus
rewritten, and
and
long-held
St.
assumptions about the
Paul's.
appearance of Jesus Christ himself
What is
have
this,
been
liar?
called into question. A letter that is said to have been written by the Apostle Paul himself has been discovered deep beneath the bustling streets of modern Rome. This astonishing item was brought to light as a result of an unexpected discovery. Nevertheless, this is not your typical letter. A remarkable physical description of
Garfield, read
Jesus
some
is
of that
described
too.
in the manuscript, which has been authenticated by prominent experts. This depiction stands in stark contrast to the depiction of Jesus that has been prevalent in Western Christianity for many generations, which depicts him as having fair complexion and European features. A portrayal of Jesus that is obviously non-European, with dark skin, shaggy hair, and broad facial features, is described by Paul in this letter. This portrayal has sparked a heated discussion and spurred a re-examination of the origins of the Christian religion. What are the
Paul, what letter Paul speaks about Jesus' physical description? Did Paul physically walk with Jesus and was taught by Jesus? Never mind. Let's see what they come up with here. Oh boy, and these AI generated voices and this stuff, y'all take this stuff. Yum, yum, yum. No wonder they calling folk running around here heresy huggers.
reasons behind the fact that such a momentous discovery has been kept hidden for such a long time? And what does it say about the genuine
Other sisters said heresy ain't bad. In what church and what church and what millennium wasn't heresy bad? I'm gonna leave y'all alone today.
ethnic identity of the most powerful religious figure in the history of the world? We invite you to join us as we uncover the specifics of this astounding discovery and investigate the enormous consequences it has for our comprehension of Jesus, the propagation of early Christianity, and the intricate web of human diversity that has defined our planet. During the summer of 2013, a group of Italian archaeologists were carrying out
This all the stuff I'm gonna let y'all deal with. Moses stuck his hand in his bosom. That means he was a black man. Then when he stuck it in, he pulled it out, it became like a white man, looking like leprosy. Then he stuck it back inside and it turned back black again. Let me let this thing keep playing. That proof is blackness. We was talking about that Bernard Jordan. I remember. Let me get Deb. Let me get these black books back in the days Bernard Jordan had back in 1990 talking this blackness. We the people.
out normal
African presence in the Bible. What's them other ones? Jawanza Kunjufu back in the 90s.
excavations beneath the streets of central Rome. These digs were taking place barely a stone's throw away from the famous Colosseum. With the remnants of multiple underground basilicas and tombs dotting the terrain, the location, which is situated in the valley of the ancient Tiber River, had been known for a long time as an important hub of early Christian activity.
Yo, let me
On
help
this
you out. If
particular
it's
day,
confusion,
the
get out of here.
excavators unearthed
If
a
it's
remarkable
confusion, get out
discovery.
of here.
A stone
to your
box that had been
handler.
hermetically sealed and retained its contents for almost 2 millennia without being opened. An individual scroll made of parchment was found within, and the wording on it had miraculously been preserved by the airtight environment. When the paper was discovered, scholars instantly recognized it as an old letter written in Koine Greek, which was the language that was commonly used in the early Christian world. Subsequent to the meticulous preservation and translation of the scroll, the experts were taken aback by the contents of the scroll.
That's
It was
probably
determined that the
ass.
letter was written by none other than the
Old
Apostle
broken
Paul,
camper looking
who
for
was
a father.
considered to be one of the most
Boy, I ain't a
significant
father
figures
figure.
in the nascent Christian movement. On the other hand, the epistle's depiction of Jesus Christ was in direct contradiction to the conventional iconography that had been prevalent for generations. Man with unmistakable African traits was pictured in Paul's epistle. These features included dark skin, large lips, and tightly curled hair. This is in contrast to the fair-skinned, European-looking Jesus that is familiar to the majority of current
Berean,
Christians.
don't skip over that.
In contrast
Hold
to
on a
the
minute.
image of the white savior,
I can't even walk away from the screen. What I skipped over? What we skipped over? Tell me what we skipped over. Dickinson, what we skipped over? What we trying to because we don't want to hide nothing. We don't want to hide this truth. We're gonna wait for you. 18 seconds behind. We pause in. We wait. No other channel. We don't want to skip over anything. What truth that was brought out that we skipped, and we don't want to intentionally skip over anything. Lest the masters condemn us to hell. Something that white folk ain't showing on TV. Some of the 10 Commandments. I like to read the words in the book and stop following these white folk and all these pictures. These folk, 90% of these folk arguments based on pictures, and it's that white Jesus. It ain't the words in the book. Words in the book said, well, I put a burden on them, or their fathers couldn't bear. We, our fathers, couldn't bear. The words in the book never tell me if I don't keep the feast days, if I don't go to Hobby Lobby and get some fringes and put them on. Y'all ain't even got no ancient fringes looking like them Hobby Lobby curtains from the European Christians that all you campers is buying. Not saying you, Dixon is camper, but I'm just saying. I go with the words in the book. Other guys said, yes, God put a special revelation on Apostle Paul so he could have a deeper understanding. Then 2 sentences later, he turned around and contradicted the words of the Apostle Paul. There's a righteousness apart from the law. First Israelites had a meeting. Those weren't people from England. Those weren't people from England. Acts 2 explains where a lot of them folk came from, and they weren't from England. But y'all are just bent on riding out that picture that came 1,200 years after the fact. And then when we showed them Dura Europa and light-skinned people in a synagogue, never mind, never mind, never mind. I promise y'all, this math ain't too good. This math ain't math. I wasn't the best at math, but this math here, Professor Henry, scholar recognized, minister, apologist Dr. Brown recognized, said it weren't European Jews back in the days. But yet, some demons and handlers going to say Berean and the Christian church are lifting up Europeans, lifting up a white Jesus. And anybody ever been on this channel for 1 month to be like, nah, this ain't a channel lifting Europeans up. This ain't that channel. But y'all are turning around, them handlers are turning around and say it anyway. Them wicked ones that'll invent scholars and lie on scholars, even with the pews in broad daylight. All scholars recognize what's on the pews. No, they don't. We could show y'all scholars disagreeing and y'all say something different anyway. Somebody's moving into demonic. And you could be Israel in the flesh. That's okay. Judas was Israel in the flesh. Not all Israel is, you could be Israel in the flesh. Now they telling us it's a spiritual thing because so many people don't know who their father is. Can't make this stuff up, y'all. Can't make this stuff up, y'all.
That is portrayed in churches, artworks, and the popular imagination. This Jesus was a man.
2 million black folk. Well, 2.2 million. 2 million. I think 200,000 could have been white and Hispanic. 2 million black folk were sharing that Putin picture that was invented in the 15th century. When did Messiah walk this planet? In the 15th century. Y'all saying the oldest paintings have been revealed. Going against what the sources themselves are saying. AI generated voice of Putin. Shout out to Teu Ministries. At least they came out and said this was demonic. This is a lie that's hurting the awakening. Who else? Deborah, Redirect. Who else? Who else turned around in Israel that dropped videos and said, yo, y'all, we got to pull back from that Putin video. That's a lie. That's AI generated. That picture don't even match the voice. That's not what was said at the original meeting. And when we just came on and we said, how come nobody in Dubai and China, the world, when Putin speak, the world is listening. At least they're recording it. How come we can't see it on Al Jazeera News? How come we don't see it on the news in Dubai and China? No, you smart black people in America. Because the white man want to hide it. Not that it's fake. Not that it's fake news and it's just generated and spread on TikTok. Your minds can't even go to thinking that. Your handlers got you trapped. Handlers don't want you to ask any questions. Oh, don't worry, we're going to get on them Christians because some elders got on here talking yesterday. Boy, folk feel some type of way. What KRS-One said, your church ain't ready. Your bishops ain't ready. Somebody be like, boy, the way some of these elders and pastors jump on this channel be talking, they talking pure crazy. I don't know if they ready. Seems like it's a spirit that wanna just bypass your brain and just use your heart. Just believe. I believe. Who wrote that song, I Believe, back in the days? I gotta start playing some of these songs. I'm finna start playing some songs. He said the book cost thousands. Yeah, too. Who came on here and had the book? Somebody came on here with the book, and it's been out. It wasn't nothing new. Somebody said, I meant Jay the producer. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, y'all. Jay the producer said he bought the book. I think it was a couple of hundred back then, but he said, I think Nathaniel and them told him to buy it or something along those lines. But I believe Jay the producer had that book, and that Putin picture, some people knew it wasn't nothing new. But a whole bunch of other folk was promoting it like something just came out. He brought it out the vaults. This is what they've been lying about. And then they don't show all the other Jesuses, because you got Jesus with different shaped eyes and noses. Some might have been darker, but them with some skinny lips and skinny. Them pictures, never mind. Y'all say black, they black. Black is in the eye of the beholder.
And who was very different from everyone else. In the realm of biblical academia, the discovery caused shockwaves to travel throughout the world. What were the implications of this discovery for our comprehension of the beginnings and early stages of the growth of Christianity, and how was it possible that such a profound picture of Christ had been concealed for such a long period of time? The authenticity of the parchment scroll was verified by a series of rigorous scientific examinations that were carried out in the years that followed the first excavation. The document was found to be within the lifespan of the historical Paul, who is thought to have lived in the 1st century CE, according to the results of the carbon dating. An examination of the Greek script via the lens of biography revealed.
Come on, red letter. They said the oldest Putin, when Putin dropped that stuff, they said it was the oldest from the oldest vaults known to man. I heard that's what they said. That's what they said. They said that, and they spread that around 2 million people in America. Because it was mostly spread around in America. 2 million people in America. Then y'all get mad at vocab? It hurts that he have to say some of the stuff that he said, but 2 million people, a large bit of y'all in America with the higher knowledge. Melanated people sharing that stuff like that stuff is gospel. A known fraud. And then to turn around and don't even put your tail in between your legs. What do these funny people turn around and do? They double down on the lie. The power of belief. All you need to do is believe.
That the handwriting was in agreement with.
That don't make it real, though. See that y'all, the problem is y'all out here with, let me stop this for a minute. Y'all out here with the demonic. Y'all out here trying to manifest. Y'all don't know manifesting is a lie. These folk done lied to y'all. Reverend Ike and all of them, they done lied to y'all, telling y'all manifest it. All you got to do is speak it into existence. Name it and claim it. All that other nonsense. Y'all don't know about that, right? Let me look at this right here. Let me show y'all something. Let me show y'all something, how this sister done woke up to some lies.
The songs you sing out loud actually manifest.
Well, if it works, she's saying if it works. You know how many people I know been manifesting a husband coming? How many people I know been manifesting $1 million, manifesting a Bentley coupe, manifesting a house, manifesting a wife? How come it ain't come yet, y'all? Manifestors, you people to speak it into existence. Y'all gonna speak it. If y'all had so much power, all the energy y'all got for these Europeans, they'd have been gone. They'd have been up and back into the mountains or wherever y'all want them to change in bondage. All this manifesting, all these lies y'all run around here telling me, these folk. But y'all want me to eat it up. And the only ones getting the money is the ones selling y'all the garbage and got the YouTube channels.
The songs you sing out loud actually manifest.
Get up, stand up. Stand up for your right. Walk it like a talk it. Walk it like a talk it. Walking in the rain.
Folk know that manifestation is garbage. They selling old tricks. They selling old tricks. Folk been talking about manifesting stuff. I don't care what y'all say. Folk been talking about manifesting stuff. Y'all can't tell me nothing. I've been around a long time. And I know folk long time been manifesting and ain't nothing got here yet. You just got to keep doing it. Just like the faith preachers pimped a lot of people back in the days. No. Well, you got to understand the real truth is you cause it don't work and you hem them up and you get them caught up like what's the other one? That crazy one talking about he was blowing away. COVID-19. It's funky breath all over the microphone. Oh, y'all eat that stuff up. Oh, y'all eat that nonsense up. That thing don't mean nothing. The other guy said, don't you think the Vatican want to hide who we are? That what the other brother asked. I'm gonna let y'all gonna stop giving the Vatican as much power as y'all giving the Vatican. Let me let this thing play.
Other samples of Pauline epistles that are known to exist. Particularly noteworthy was the fact that the letter's substance and theological perspective were in close agreement with Paul's works that are considered to be part of the New Testament canon. The claimed authorship of the scroll was given more respect as a result of the fact that it contained references to specific events, figures, and doctrinal stances that were consistent with the apostles' established body of evidence. On the other hand, the extreme portrayal of Jesus that was included in the epistle posed a substantial challenge to the consensus among scholars. Because the depiction of Christ in Europe had been so deeply ingrained in Christian iconography and tradition, many people were unwilling to accept a different version of Christ, regardless of how compelling the evidence was. The fact that the newly discovered letter appeared to contradict earlier canonical descriptions.
And when they show you the pictures, these 4 pictures of the same hallway in the library from that documentary back in the days of the Vatican, when they show you that, don't equate that with research. These are just pictures. My mind don't equate these long hallway corridors of books. My mind don't equate this with truth or research. They show you picture and imagery for a reason. This is part of the game. That don't mean this is where the stuff even come from. These are just random pictures being shown. Look at this right here, y'all. Too early for this. Listen to this right here. Berean TV. So this demonic behavior started when people started leaving the church or when they started saying they are true Israel. Neither one. It been existed. Lies, and what some would call the demonic Genesis 3 had been existing. You see how he gave me 2 choices? But automatically I'm going to jump past that. It's not either one, it's not an either or. Something's being missed here. It's deeper than that. When did the lies begin according to the book you say you read? Lies and deceptions been around from the gate, Genesis 3. Fair use.
Descriptions of Jesus' physical appearance was a factor that contributed to the debate that was already there. Each of the 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, describes a Messiah who has characteristics that are characteristic of the Middle East, including olive skin, dark hair, and Semitic features. It is difficult to see how Paul's story could be so drastically different from these reputable sources. In order to address these concerns, the study team sought the assistance of eminent experts in a variety of subjects, including art history, forensic anthropology.
He said, show the Madonna that the Pope bows down to. You don't think we done showed that before? What that mean? Why that? What year that Madonna come from? Which one you talking about? Poland, where at? Which one you talking about? There's many Madonnas. What that mean? Tell us what that mean right there. That proved the Madonnas prove something about the mixed multitude at the foot of Mount Sinai. That's what I'm looking for right there. That's what I want. Them type of answers. Anywhere you want to go, we can go. And then y'all notice the thing that scared me. Y'all notice that the Pope is furious about. Y'all notice he didn't talk about this letter, this manuscript from Paul, like Bruce gave y'all Enoch, like he traveled and he brought to y'all a book Enoch. Y'all notice he haven't mentioned this manuscript yet, so we can look it up and see what scholars in the field have to say. Go ahead, Garfield. You seen some of that? Let me put my plate away
Yeah. First of all, I don't know if the person who is commentating is a scholar. That's the first thing. I don't see any credentials.
Oh yeah, they just using AI generated to read sounding good and professional, and these folk eating it up. But go ahead. I see that's Elder Green in the back chat. I'm gonna mute myself. I'm gonna take my coffee.
Cool. When it talks about old maps referring to Ethiopia, we got to be careful because once we're doing the old maps, the old maps argument is not a great argument, because those maps saying Ethiopia, you're talking about Herodotus. Herodotus said Ethiopians. He called all of Africa Libya. Libya was what the Greeks called Africa on a whole, right? Even the places they never saw, they call it Libya. They call south of the Sahara, the people that lived in that region, Ethiopians, based off of their skin tone. All right, just to be clear. He said something about the Quran in the 5th century. I don't know about that part, because from what I know, the Quran was written and brought to us from the 6th or the 7th century. All right. Also, when they talk about the Ethiopia in this video, right? The Ethiopia they're talking about is actually Nubia, which is Kush, because the term Ethiopia was never in the Bible. So it's confusing, because the video actually says it's would be upper or southern Sudan or northern Sudan or whatever, which is modern day Kush, which is would be modern day Nubia, I should say. All right. As far as Senian and Sinai and all that stuff, I mean, I don't have a problem with none of that stuff. We know Misr means Egypt, is referring to Mizraim, is referring to Egypt. So Misr, we know the words of that. They're really trying to connect Ethiopia to it. All right. Hey, I'm live on Berin. I'll call you right back. All right. All right. Yeah. So for those who are watching, I mean, when somebody jump out the window and say it's talking about Ethiopia, they do have an argument as far as the connection with Ethiopian wife and all that stuff, because the Kush is right there. Nubia was right there beside Egypt. So Sinai is the Arabian region. So I don't see what's the confusion. I really don't see what's the confusion. You know, but I mean, it's curious. I mean, people get views for these type of things. I guess they want to attach the whole Israelite movement to Africa per se. I think that's probably what they're trying to do.
Okay. Fair use. Look in the comment section. Let me know if you say anything in the comment section. I just walked back in.
Ancient history and theology, among others. An argument that was compelling for the legitimacy and significance of the astonishing find started to develop as a result of the rigorous analysis that was performed. The question of why Paul's picture of Jesus was so drastically different from the portrayals found in the Gospels was at the center of the argument that's taking place among scholars.
What are you talking
about? Garfield, stop. Pause for a second. When I was talking to what's his name? Second Exodus, and we were talking about was talking about African Americans and and I misspoke. But now they made a whole video about me. This is why I don't like these people, man. They made a whole video about me, the Yap Gang. This is why I gotta watch these guys with a side eye. Why would you make a video? Obviously, I know R can turn into E. Everybody knows that. I was actually mimicking what Second Exodus is saying, and I got a slip of the tongue. So what's the problem? What's the problem? Jay Guida? Oh, he's an infiltrator. He's an agent. Why? Because we disagree? Do people realize that social media is just people on social media talking?
All right, listen. Look at this right here. This hurts people a lot, especially with Egypt. That's the foundation of a lot of these teachings. Now you want to admit, Garfield, you do admit that some Egyptian mummies. This is the problem here. This is the problem here, because there was a time. Tell the people the truth, Garfield. Did you always believe what you believe? Do you believe there was a time all of the mummies? Yeah, go ahead. Talk about that.
Yeah, you're right. I never believed what happened. I remember I used to teach that Jesus never existed one time. 10, 12 years
see ago. That? And so what about the mummies? What about the mummies? You taught at one time they were all of one. They all look like me.
Yeah, I did teach
that at one time. And what changed your what got into your mind?
I stopped talking about how they looked, because they could look anyway. But the issue with the mummies is that the testing, especially for Ramesses III and his son, are going to be done over, because of the guy who actually did the test said they're pretty much null and void. If I, for example, Berin, if I test you now and you're E1B1A, if I put you in the WIT athlete predictor, you might come out as G or I, which are European markers, because it's not conducive to work with us today as far as technology is concerned. So the guys who did the test said they're going to do it over. So that's why a lot of people might be mad, because they can't use that E1B1A again when they say Ramesses III, because they can't do it.
Garfield, they said you changed. Garfield, they said you changed.
Yes, people can change.
They said you admitted live that the Illuminati approached you, and then you started dressing. You know, they started showing you. No, Garfield. They say I'm gonna tell you what they say, and I got to be honest. You know, you teach.
The Illuminati approaches everybody.
All type of different fitted, all type of different. And I was like, man. They said you got it. So you got a big check. You was trying to act like it was coming through credit and different stuff, but you got a big check, and your speech and your type of video started changing. Then you started beefing with Sinetta and them, shout out to Si. Then you started beefing with them because you wanted to go your separate way because you bought into their doctrine.
Yeah, I think first of all, I never, even when I thought Jesus existed, I wouldn't say it because of the environment that I was in. But by me growing up is like, I had to teach what the truth is. And the truth is, when I looked at, even last week, I'm there thinking like, why would somebody make up a tradition of Mark? If you look at the book of Mark, why would somebody make that up? Even if you don't believe in the miracles.
I agree with that. Why would somebody
literally make that up, that Jesus got baptized or Jesus got crucified? Why would Tacitus, in his research and studies going back to Nero, find out about Christians in the 64 AD time period? They're Christians being persecuted by Nero, or he lied on them. And what did those people believe in? They believed in a guy who was crucified, that he was the savior or the Messiah.
And this 200 years before Constantine, 220 years before Constantine.
No, but look at it this way. Look at it this way. 30 years after Jesus. That's what 64 AD is.
That's very early. That's what I'm saying.
So for me to say that Jesus didn't exist is sad. And another thing too is, if you read Paul gives us markers. Paul says he went up to Jerusalem, I think, for 3 years. Then after
even bought Erman, that's right, and met with.
Then he went another 14 years. So that's 17 years. Now, 17 years after the 17 years, he said there was a famine in the land. Do you know that they documented that they were like
outside? Thank you.
In the Roman period, and it actually lines up around 45, 44 AD. They're arguing now. And if you minus 17 years, you get around 28 AD. So technically, Paul could have been around, not in Judea, but he was around persecuting Christians while Jesus was alive. It's possible. This is me speaking, not scholars.
No, man. Listen, but you see what you're talking. You know, people asking you questions right now.
Oh, they're asking what are they asking?
Judah Rise, that's a sister. That's my man's wife. She said, what does Garfield believe?
Oh, I believe personally that religion is religion. You know, whatever you follow, you follow. I don't follow religion. Yes, I'm definitely a big time universalist. But as far as what you believe, that's your own personal belief. I can't argue with you about that. But when it comes to history and archaeology, I'll debate you all day. Because religion is
bought, Garfield. Have you been bought? Since you've been on the scene, your doctrine have changed. Jabari said you was a Christian on the low.
Yeah, well, I don't mind that. I don't mind that. The greatest minds, my mom, my dad were Christians. I was a Christian myself, baptized in Calvary Gospel Assembly, 119 Sundown Crescent.
Somebody called Jay the producer. So I wonder if Garfield was ever really a believer. Because according to Jay, he couldn't have been. So do you see? Go ahead. Let me see what other questions.
I see what my whole thing is this. I say to everybody this way. I mean, I don't believe as you do, but I do accept and I do acknowledge a historical Jesus.
So that's kind of like along the lines of Bart Ehrman.
Bart Ehrman, yeah, pretty much.
Garfield went from agnostic to theist. He said he don't. No, because at first he was a believer. At first he grew up. You know, most people in Jamaica, they don't grow up with the Psalms. They can grow up with the Bible. They can grow up with some Sunday school. So, and then he said he was baptized. And he said he was in church. And what's the name of the church? He just said the church when he was young.
Calvary Gospel Assembly in Jamaica. I went to Calvary Prep and I was baptized in Calvary Gospel Assembly.
So now, so then when you came over here and got corrupted there, how long you been here?
Oh man, over 25 years. And you know what's crazy? When I was a Christian in college at LaGuardia, my friend was a part of the Nation of Islam, and that's how I switched up to
Listen, y'all see that? That parents told y'all be careful with the company, mind the company you keep. He said when he was in LaGuardia, up here in the city, when he was in LaGuardia, and a friend of his was in the nation. And then, so you were on the Black Power. That's all right. Mets in church right now. So you was on the black. So you was on the blackness. Or you started. They started talking to you about a white Jesus. What made you start even thinking along the nation? Because people don't just jump from church to the Nation of Islam. Just like that.
The church, it seemed reasonable, and I got introduced to Khalid Abdul Muhammad. They gave me a NYU tape when it was hip hop music playing behind, and the guy was preaching. I'm like, yo,
Khalid, the dark skinned brother, Khalid, the dad?
Khalid Abdul Muhammad, yeah. That's who I named my first son after. I named my first son after Khalid. So I was deep in the Nation of Islam as far as I was working security. I was doing, going to Savior's Day every year. I was going to Chicago every year. I was big time as far as just being around. I didn't get my X, of course, but I used to work security for movies with Spike Lee. I mean, I was there.
Okay. He said, who said, Dickinson said, who hurt you, God? Why when somebody out of the Bible, they got to be hurt when they're not following the Bible or your beliefs, they got to be hurt? He said, who hurt you, Garfield?
Remember, I got kicked out of LaGuardia for a semester because I played a Khalid Abdul Muhammad tape. And all the Jews. This was when he was doing the whole thing.
Oh yeah, and
they kicked me out of school for that. And then
what's the other president that was not in LaGuardia? It was a John Jay, the dark skinned brother, that him and the Leonard Jeffries and all of them back then. That
was City College, yeah. City College.
Yes.
So
okay, all right.
When I got kicked out of college, the Nation of Islam came and represented me at the school. So that's what grabbed me in. Because when I got kicked out,
they was by his side. They helped him out in a time of need. Y'all heard that.
They came in, they helped me 100%, supported me and everything. And that was very cool. I actually admired that. And,
got to admire that.
Leaving that alone, and all of a sudden now, the brother that brought me to the Nation of Islam, he brought me to the slave theater, which was like a double-edged sword. So you have people
Bedford Avenue, over the next shout out to Dreadnam across on the diagonal from the Moth on Bedford and Fulton.
Yep. So you have Kemet folks and you have Nation of Islam folks. The Kemet folks don't like Farrakhan. Black folks didn't like Farrakhan because they thought he was teaching crap. The Nation of Islam is garbage. And so I started learning about Kemet and Dr. Ben, fell in love with Dr. Ben's book, Black Man in the Nile. And I started leaning more. So I was at a crossroads. And plus it was at the same time when Khalid Abdul Muhammad was in a rift with the nation. So I had to choose.
That's right.
Between Farrakhan and Khalid Abdul Muhammad. And I chose, you know what? I walked away. That's what I did. So I walked away from the Nation of Islam at the time and just started studying because I said, if I gave up on the New Testament, I said, I'm not going to give up on the Old Testament. And that's when I started studying the Old Testament a lot. And then I'm like, man, don't tell me the Old Testament got issues too. So I walked and studied, and then I started dealing with historicity of the patriarchs and studying and going back to school and doing different things. And eventually I just grew out of religion per se and just became somebody who just deal with the history. And then what one personal belief is their personal belief. Now I'm grown up now because 5 years ago.
Where were you in light of, when was the first time you jumped on, how you met Sinetta? When was the first time you jumped on with them, and what were you believing at that point? Were you in the slave hanging out, or you were past that stage?
No, I passed the stage of the slave theater because slave theater already had been done with and everything. But I was at the stage where I was just like, I'm just pretty much.
Khalid was already passed. Khalid already died.
Khalid died in years before that. So it was I mean, I always loved Farrakhan. That's what the thing. He was just a charismatic guy who I liked. So I was like, starstruck. I remember the Nation of Islam borrowed my car, and his childhood friend had died, and he came up to the Bronx. And let me tell you something, man. We was at Bronxwood Funeral Home, 225th and Bronxwood in the Bronx. And I was on security detail for Minister Farrakhan. And that speech he gave is the best speech I ever heard in my life, and it was a funeral.
At a funeral.
That man walked past me. I felt, it's like I was so anxious. I felt like how people tell stories about feeling somebody's aura.
Yeah. Like I could have fainted.
Like a ghost came inside of me. I love that man so much because remember when you're standing on post, you're ready to take a bullet for the man.
In front, that's correct. Come on.
Exactly. So we're in Harlem looking up for snipers and all that stuff. So I was like big time security and doing all type of stuff. So I was deep. I really loved Farrakhan. But once I got into the conscious community, I kind of like, I still love Farrakhan, but I kind of like drift away from the NOI and the whole teachings and everything. I still love my brothers. My best friend is still in the nation. This is the one that brought me. Actually, no, he's Orthodox. I think he's Orthodox Muslim, not Nation of Islam.
Oh, he really okay. But he went from the nation to real Islam.
Let's call it Orthodox Islam.
Yes, yeah. All right, Orthodox.
All right. But as far as that is concerned, so when I came into the conscious community, though, I'm just a guy still holding on to whatever I believed in the past, no matter what. But I grew out of a lot of things. Like, if you talked about Farrakhan, I would be upset back in the days. Now I don't even care now because it was personality worship.
Okay, you're the cult of personality. That's big. That's big out here. At least you recognize what it is, because that is big. So you got someone you look up to now, or never like to that level?
I look up to Bereen. I look up to you. I look up to Bereen.
All right. I don't know how high looking that is, but all right, that's something.
Yeah, I look up to Bereen because you've been there. You know all. I watch all your old videos. I have my son watching your old videos.
Okay.
He was interested in Islam, so I said, let me put you on to somebody.
Your son not a teenager yet, right?
Huh?
Your son not a teenager yet?
No, I'm talking about my oldest son. My oldest son, he's about to be 29 this year. 29.
Oh, well, okay, mine too. My
oldest son, I had him when I was young. His name is Khalid Malik, so I named him off of Khalid Abdul.
Oh, you named him. Oh,
and Malik off of El Haj Malik Shabazz. So those were like two of the biggest influences on me. So that's how I named him. And then
later, all right, y'all. Any more questions? Let me see. Shout out to the caller. The caller, that's Garfield. Oh boy, these people don't even know who. They don't even know who's on. All right, serious. Let me play some more of this. I don't know how much time you got, but I'm getting ready to get out of here in a little while. So my niece pull up here with the truck. This Ethiopia. I mean, not Ethiopia. This the Pope, Black Jesus.
The hypothesis that the Apostles' Letter existed before to the canonical stories was one that was proposed by theologians. This would provide a more immediate and possibly more accurate representation of the historical Jesus. The proponents of this viewpoint contended that the Gospels, which were written several decades after the death of Jesus, might have been affected by the expanding Greco-Roman cultural domination of the Roman Empire. The iconography and imagery of Christianity may have been purposefully altered as the religion grew throughout the Mediterranean world. This may have been done in order to cater to the preferences and expectations of the religion's population, which was becoming increasingly diverse. On the other hand, Paul's letter, which was most likely written during the apostles' missionary missions in the 50s CE, may be interpreted as a more unfiltered picture of Jesus, one that had not yet been sculpted by the necessity of cultural integration. Due to the fact that the apostle asserted that he had a personal relationship with the Messiah, it is possible that he maintained a more genuine recollection of his physical appearance. In order to lend additional support to this theory, forensic anthropologists conducted an analysis of the anatomical traits that were detailed in the letter. They came to the conclusion that these qualities were in line with the normal physical characteristics of people who were indigenous to the Levant region of the ancient Near East. The Europeanized images that would later come to dominate Christian art and iconography stood in stark contrast to this. Furthermore, historians referred to evidence of diversity within early Christianity, focusing on the fact that the foundations of the faith were firmly rooted in the multicultural environment of the Roman Empire. It is important to note that the first spread of the Church was not restricted to the populations of Europe. Rather, it encompassed considerable communities of followers in North Africa, the Middle East, and even as far east as India. In this setting, a Jesus with African or dark features would not have been as shocking or contentious as it might appear to our sensibilities, which have been formed by centuries of Western cultural hegemony. It is therefore possible to interpret the description of the letter as a reflection of the organic development of the faith within the context of an ancient civilization that was internationally interconnected. The revelation of Paul's letter and the radical picture of Jesus that it contained have had significant repercussions for the comprehension of early Christianity and the development of the religion over the course of the centuries. A great number of people have had their long-held beliefs and deeply ingrained ideas about the ethnic identity of the religion's key figure destroyed as a result of the discovery. Perhaps most significantly, the letter has pushed a re-examination of the role that power dynamics, culture, and race have had in the formation of Christian theology and iconography. This is perhaps the most profound effect of the letter. Scholars have pointed out that the European representation of Jesus, which has dominated Western art and religious imagination for centuries, may have worked to strengthen colonial and imperialist beliefs that exalted white supremacy. This is something that has been observed by scholars. The Pauline text that was recently discovered, on the other hand, provides a startling alternative story. This narrative places Jesus squarely into the multicultural environment of the ancient Mediterranean civilization. The result of this is that there has been a resurgence in the investigation of the various origins of the religion and the manner in which it has been molded by the intricate interaction of cultures and ethnicities from all over the world. The news that Paul's letter was discovered has been a deep and empowering revelation for a great number of Christians, particularly those who come from backgrounds that are not European. The long-held belief that the Savior of the world must be beautiful and divine in accordance with a Eurocentric norm is called into question by this piece of evidence. A Jesus who is firmly entrenched in the variegated tapestry of the ancient Near East is presented instead. This Jesus is a figure who transcends the limits of race and ethnicity, which have so frequently been used to divide and marginalize people. As the academic and theological discussion surrounding this astonishing discovery continues to develop, it is becoming increasingly apparent that the ramifications of the Pauline letter go well beyond the sphere of biblical studies. The continuous struggle for representation and inclusion, as well as the reclaiming of historical narratives that have been repressed or distorted by the forces of cultural hegemony, is reflected in this statement.
One of the most significant finds from antiquity is this letter. Let us not waste any more time and dive headfirst into this letter and its rich descriptions of Jesus. If you're interested in being a member of this
all right, Golf,
community
and I got to
and
shut
want to
this
make
down. I'm
sure
getting
you
ready
don't
to
miss a
let
video
me call
update,
Elder and them first.
subscribing is a good
this
idea.
back chat. I
Even
appreciate
if
you,
there
bro. We're
was
gonna
someone
jump back on later on
unbeliever
if
we
you're
could trust
available.
to teach us about
Let me shut this
Jesus,
down, y'all.
it
I
would have been
know.
Saul. Paul
You
became his new
conspiracy
name
people
once he
gonna
encountered
say that they
Jesus.
was coming to the truth, and Berean jumped off because we was getting ready to get to the truth, and you know how y'all do. You know how y'all do. I seen Sakari and them. I see that. I think Deacon and them made that. I see that video. We listen to vocab and we watch Berean TV, and then the person just blocked the person with the white Jesus. Boy, I tell y'all funny. We're gonna shut it down. I'm gonna try to see if we can clear up some of this stuff before church or after church about some of that back chat talk. All right, we appreciate you, Garfield. I'm gonna shut this down right now, y'all.